So one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest radio shows in America, and it has now been on, you'll be more impressed by this than anyone, for 23 years running in the same market, is a show called The Church of Lazlo. And it's on, it used to be on an alternative rock station. It's now on a regular rock station. Doesn't matter. Their frequency just changed, but it's been this dude Lazlo and his buddy Slim Fast. I was their sports guy for years. And Lazlo, I'm going to tell a real, quick tangent. People like it. Lazlo is, to me, he was one of my mentors in radio and just also one of the coolest stories ever. He was from Detroit, alcoholic drug addict, went to the Navy. I think got kicked out of the Navy because of those two things I just mentioned. I might get his story something wrong. Kind of was always a mess, always did radio, and then got sober, started this state, and is like a wild liberal on the radio in Kansas City, Missouri, where when he started his show, every single day, he would start his show by saying it has been X amount of days since George W. Bush declared mission accomplished in Iraq, and then went on. And he's on the air to this day because he's so talented, and I think it's the funniest show in America. So, say all that. So when I first started in radio, they were down the hall. They had actually just come back from Seattle, where they used to be simulcast in Seattle and Kansas City. And Lazlo said to me, he's like, listen, man, and this wasn't his original theory, but it was the first person I had heard it from. I'm like 24. He's like, you got to know what type of horse you are for this company. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, there's 3 horses in radio. He's like, there's the money horse, there's the show horse, and there's the work horse. He's like, and you're going to screw up if you don't know which horse you are. I'm like, okay. He's like, the money horse is the guy who's always going to have a job because all the big clients love him. He's like, the car dealership's his buddy, and this guy, and so he does all the reads because they all love him. He's safe. He's like, the show horse is the guy who they want to be able to put on the billboard the name. He's like, he's usually like someone who does, a former athlete or does local TV, and they feels like a celebrity. He's like, none of the advertisers know who the hell you are, and nobody knows your name. He's like, that just leaves the workhorse. He's like, and that's what it sounds like. You're going to keep your job because you're going to work harder than everybody. Do you need me to pick up that shift? I can do this. I can do that. You're also going to work. You're going to know everything. Like, that's your path, man. And honest to God, it's one of the most important conversations I ever had in my career. Because I was like, okay, that's who I'm going to be. And he was telling me this. He's like, you think you're the show horse. You think like you're a big name. He's like, but you're not. Maybe one day you will be, but you're not. And I was going to say this because Draymond recognized early on, I'm the workhorse. I've got to do the dirty work. I got to do all this. But the more interesting part of it is the Shedeur thing, which is Shedeur fell in the draft because he thought he was a show horse. And teams were looking at him as, are you a workhorse? And he thought, I'm Shadour Sanders. I'm interviewing you. I've got all these people competing for my services. And they looked at it as, you're Shadour Sanders. Are you going to pick up this mistake we put in the film? Are you going to know the playbook? Are you going to do this? And if you don't know the job you're applying for, how do you nail the interview? And so I think that is like it's a really, something I've just carried with me forever. Like, poignant piece of advice, which is, it doesn't so much matter how you view yourself. It matters in an employment setting. It matters how your employer or potential employer views you. And are you representing that? Are you, so that I think was Shedeur's biggest mistake is he didn't know what job he was interviewing for, and he didn't know who he was to these teams.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Well, and I'll throw something at you. One of the things why we didn't get an honest read, because clearly Pittsburgh never viewed him. They viewed him as Kenny Pickett. Daniel Jeremiah said that when his intel was that they viewed him as a little better than Kenny Pickett as a prospect. Well, Kenny Pickett, by the two of the GMs in the league that I really respect, one of them with a couple trophies, viewed Kenny Pickett as a top to middle of the third quarterback. And that's exactly what he is. He's a backup and an occasional starter if somebody gets hurt, which is his role potentially in Cleveland. I don't think he'll be there long, but that's his current role. So the reason that Shedeur didn't get an honest evaluation is because Deion Sanders knows so many people in the NFL. And he's worked at many broadcast companies, and nobody wanted to be honest. This is what I've always said about bullies, and Deion is not a bully. The downside to being forceful and intimidating and a bully is you actually get lied to by everybody in your life because nobody wants confrontation. People don't like it. Your wife doesn't. Your kids don't. So the big, brash bully, the top sales guy, the egomaniac, Bobby Knight in his prime, never got an honest opinion because he intimidated people. So you're much better having relationships where you ask questions. You don't always have an opinion, where people feel free to criticize you, and that will give you a more honest appraisal of who you truly are and what you need to accomplish. Bullies get lied to more than anybody, although they think they're always demanding and getting the truth. The exact opposite is true. They have visions of they're deluded to a degree because they're always being told, yes, you're right, and absolutely, and all. So the other group that never gets an honest appraisal are superstars and celebrities. You know, nobody ever told George Clooney in his prime, you're not really, it's not working for me on this. Because he was so big, you didn't want to piss him and his, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio in his prime. Don't offend him. That won't go well. And so being a superstar, Deion's like a superstar. I mean, he's doing commercials with Nick Saban, and he's a 500 coach at Colorado. That's all you need to know, right? So I think that's what hurt Shedeur is nobody just came out and just said, and by the way, Arch Manning may get a little bit of this too.
Sure.
Is that nobody's going to come out and say, I got to be honest, he couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers. There's a reason.
So
he's okay.
I've just assumed Arch Manning is a guaranteed top 5 pick, but I don't know as much about college football as you, and I'm not even saying that's what you're saying. Here's the other thing the Shedeur thing revealed to me, and it's not that I needed it revealed. It shined a light on. We have traded, as a sports public, true insiders for instant transactional gratification. We have valued who is going to have this thing that was going to be announced by the team in 90 minutes anyway, first, over what is actual informational journalism, which is, somebody said this, and again, I wish I could quote him, but I can't. Journalism is publishing or uncovering information that otherwise would not get out there. That's what it is. Like, this story would remain hidden or fact or whatever it is. Don Van Natta did a lot of that. Like Seth Wickersham. We know the people who've done it in sports. Simply being the first to say this player is signing with this team when that player signing with that team was going to become public knowledge no matter what is a different, I'm not saying it's not journalism, it's a different thing. But that is the thing that we, in the general public, seemingly value because that is the thing that people get paid for and get famous for as reporters. The only way to these days do that job really well is to have everyone like you, which is why in modern sports journalism, every draft pick is great. Every surgery is ahead of schedule. Every MRI was better than expected. And everything is positive. Every single thing is positive. And so the fact that none of our insiders said, I've talked to 15 teams and 12 of them don't have Shedeur in their top 50. Like, nobody had this. Nobody had, like, it went from, is he going to be the first pick, to, okay, it'll be Cam Ward, but then, Shedeur, Giants, Browns, to, oh shit, he might slide to the Saints. And then by draft day, it was, wow, what does it mean for Aaron Rodgers? Because Shedeur could maybe be there at 21 and they could draft him.
Yeah.
The entirety of the NFL world, nobody had. He'll be very fortunate if he is taken with the Browns or Giants' second pick. Not one person. And by the way, I obviously didn't have it. I'm not acting like I had it, but I'm not an insider. And so I found that really telling that, man, what information are we actually getting? Like, what is the real? And are the guys who actually have the real information like, well, I know the truth here, but it's not worth it because it'll piss the wrong relationships, agents, teams, whatever off. And so I also think that what is so stunning about this, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know now we're a month old on it, it is shocking that Deion didn't have the information either. That nobody privately told Deion, hey.
That's right.
Hey,
that's the downside,
yes,
like a bully, of being a beloved superstar.
Nobody told Deion, hey, man.
You don't get the truth.
Like, listen, maybe they're all wrong. But the league has real questions over whether or not your son's a starter. So you got to tell him. He's got to blow their socks off in this. Because Deion is, whatever anyone thinks of Deion, he's obviously a loving, devoted father. That's undeniable. Yeah. And he just, didn't have the information.
That's right. Think about that. Think of how many friends he has in the NFL and not a single person. I'm telling you, Arch Manning, be very careful. The Mannings are American football royalty. Now, I will say there's a little less. They've got their own egos, but Deion's always been over the top.
Sure.
He's been almost at times a wrestling heel. Like he loves to, and the Mannings, with Arch, he's been backing up Quinn Ewers, who he's clearly better than, and they never transferred. So they've handled it with grace, and I think that's the Mannings brand. But this really does go back to bullies and superstars. You'd think they'd get the inside info. They're lied to more than everybody else. You know who you don't lie to? Your cranky neighbor who you don't love, but you're going to tell him, don't mow the grass at 6 o'clock on a Saturday. You're going to give him a real honest, cranky opinion. The people that you don't have anything to lose, like just people that you don't adore, you're always willing to say, bro, that's not going to work. Correct. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's hard to say to a Manning or a Deion Sanders. It's hard.
That's really interesting.